Was prophecy just about predicting the future? Seriously, for centuries, theologians wrestled with this, and the answers were messy. It wasn't a simple yes or no to whether a seer could see tomorrow. It was a swirling vortex of images, understanding, and frankly, a whole lot of confusion. Let's dive into the chaos, shall we? Imagine a world where a king's messenger isn't delivering urgent news but cryptic verses about impending doom. That was David, apparently. Peter Lombard, a brilliant but perpetually perplexed 12th century scholar, stared at these prophecies and wondered what exactly was happening inside the prophet's head. Was it a divine download, a flash of insight, or just really, really good guesswork? It started with Gilbert of Poitiers, a monk obsessed with the idea of loftiness. David, according to Gilbert, didn't just murmur a prediction, he understood it with a clarity that others lacked. He didn't use riddles or veiled metaphors. He spoke with a directness that seemed almost otherworldly. It was like he'd plugged straight into the source. Other prophets, Gilbert grumbled, used smoke and mirrors, but David, he just knew. This knowing, this clear, unclouded understanding became the key. Then came Philip the Chancellor, a Parisian theologian who took things a step further. He argued that true prophecy wasn't just about clarity, it was about absence. No images, no visions, no dreams, just pure, unadulterated intellectual comprehension. Inspiration, Philip declared, only happens when it's utterly devoid of external aids. Think of it like this: a brilliant mathematician lost in the depths of a complex equation, suddenly grasping the solution without a single diagram or hint. That, according to Philip, was prophecy. It was a kind of mental lightning strike, but here's where things get weird. Suddenly, prophecy started looking suspiciously like philosophy. The Glossa Ordinaria, a massive collection of notes and interpretations on the Psalms, noticed something unsettling. They pointed to Augustine's own soliloquies, where the saint wrestled with the nature of the soul and God. Augustine, they argued, was essentially having a conversation with himself, arriving at truth through inner reflection. And guess what? David was doing the same thing. He was investigating with himself about the incarnation of the Son of God, basically, having a deeply personal, intensely intellectual debate with the divine. It was like a philosophical seminar held entirely within the prophet's mind. Now, let's talk about names. In medieval times, names weren't just labels, they were believed to reveal hidden meanings. The word vates, meaning prophet or seer, popped up everywhere in ancient texts, in Christian scriptures, and even in pagan writings. Isidore of Seville, a 6th century encyclopedia master, defined vates as someone with a force of mind, someone who could see things beyond the present moment. But Isidore wasn't finished. He connected this force of mind to poetic ability, suggesting that poets too could be considered vates because they shaped words into songs, a kind of divine madness, he claimed. It was a bizarre, sprawling definition encompassing priests, prophets, and poets, all united by this mysterious mental power. Peter Lombard, a man known for his meticulousness, found himself utterly bewildered by this tangled web of meanings. In his Sentences, a hugely influential legal and theological text, he stumbled upon the word vates and realized it could mean anything from a priest to a poet to a prophet. He essentially admitted defeat, declaring that vates was a term with manifold meanings. It was like trying to catch smoke with your bare hands. He borrowed the definition from Isidore, accepting the idea that vates was someone with a strength of mind, a mind capable of both profound insight and apparently a touch of divine madness. But wait, there's more. Peter Lombard wasn't just grappling with the definition of vates, he was wrestling with the relationship between prophecy and other forms of understanding. He was asking, how did this inspired insight differ from ordinary reasoning? How did it connect to the work of the Church Fathers, those early Christian thinkers who had developed their own unique approaches to interpreting Scripture? It was a fundamental question that would haunt theologians for centuries. Hugh of St. Victor, a brilliant but notoriously difficult scholar, was particularly vexed by this issue. He struggled to reconcile the writings of the Church Fathers with the Bible, convinced that the Fathers were often imposing their own interpretations onto the sacred text. He was trying to establish a clear line between genuine revelation and subjective interpretation, a task that proved incredibly challenging. Then there was Peter Comester, a 12th century historian who wrote a massive chronicle of world events. He described Samuel's encounter with Saul as a prime example of prophecy, not as a prediction of the future, but as a continuous act of praise. Samuel and his followers weren't foretelling doom, they were singing hymns to God, and that, according to Comester, was prophecy. It was a surprisingly pragmatic definition, blurring the lines between religious devotion and prophetic utterance. And let's not forget the influence of Pseudo-Dionysius, a late antique philosopher who developed a complex system of contemplative theology. His ideas, particularly his emphasis on intellectual vision, became hugely popular in the Middle Ages. Peter of Poitiers, a master of theology at Paris, embraced this approach, arguing that prophecy could involve a kind of pure, unmediated understanding, a vision that transcended the limitations of the senses and the intellect. The whole thing was a chaotic mess, a tangled thicket of definitions and interpretations. Prophecy wasn't a neatly packaged concept, it was a fluid, evolving idea shaped by the perspectives of countless thinkers. It encompassed prediction, interpretation, contemplation, and even, in some cases, mere praise. It was a testament to the complexity of faith, the challenges of interpreting scripture, and the enduring human desire to understand the divine. So what's the takeaway? Was prophecy just about predicting the future? Absolutely not. It was about something far more profound, a way of engaging with the divine, of accessing hidden truths, and of shaping the world through understanding. And perhaps most importantly, it was a constant source of debate and uncertainty, a reminder that even the most deeply held beliefs can be subject to endless questioning and reinterpretation. But if prophecy wasn't about predicting the future, then what was it about? Was it a gift, a burden, or simply a reflection of the human mind's relentless quest for meaning? The answer, it seems, is still out there, shrouded in the mists of history and the echoes of countless voices. And honestly, isn't that a little bit beautiful?